Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, walking into your bathroom and looking in the mirror. Now imagine turning on your phone, opening up a video feed, and seeing that exact same face, your face laughing at some joke you've never heard, sitting in a room you've never been in, just, starring in a life you never agreed to live.
Yeah, that is the nightmare right there.
Right. And then imagine realizing that legally, you do not own the face looking back at you from that screen. Welcome to Off the Record. You are joining us for what I can only describe as a profoundly disturbing yet entirely necessary deep dive into the darkest corners of corporate innovation.
Absolutely necessary.
Our mission today is singular. We are taking a deep dive into a massive cache of leaked corporate documents, architectural blueprints, and insider accounts detailing a shadow economy known as the Starsuite phenomena.
It is, and I don't say this lightly, it is a genuinely staggering collection of raw data. What we are looking at here is not just a leak, it's a comprehensive structural vivisection of an industry that operates entirely above the law. I mean, way beyond the boundaries of basic human ethics.
Oh, way beyond.
We have internal logistics memos, legal loopholes mapping out the actual patenting of human life, and most crucially, a highly detailed first-hand account of the entire operation from the inside out. It's a data set that just actively challenges our fundamental understanding of identity, of autonomy, and what legally constitutes a person.
Exactly. We are going to unpack exactly what happens behind the black glass doors of these facilities. But before we get into the grim reality of human patenting, I do need to officially acknowledge the spread in front of us. As always, our director, Ryan Thomas, has curated a pairing to accompany our deep dive.
And quite a pairing it is.
Yeah, and I have to say, Ryan Thomas, who I absolutely despise with every fiber of my being, somehow knows exactly how to pour a drink. We are looking at a ridiculously high-proof, offensively expensive Kentucky bourbon, and a steak dinner so heavy and rich it feels like a final meal before an execution.
It really does.
It makes me want to strangle him. Or I don't know, maybe just pull him onto my lap so he stops pacing around the control room looking so incredibly smug. Just sit down, Ryan. Anyway, cheers to you, my brilliant co-host. Let's dig in.
Cheers. Wow. Okay, that bourbon has an immediate, intense warmth to it.
Yeah, it hits right away.
Very complex, incredibly heavy on the oak. It's almost fitting, given the absolute density of the material we have to cover today.
Smooth.
Yeah.
Dangerously smooth. I'm going to need it. Okay, so to understand how a nightmare of this magnitude is even legally possible, we can't start with the clones. We have to start with the money.
Right, follow the money.
According to these leaked corporate files, to understand the Starsuite phenomenon, we have to look at the macroeconomics of a very specific industry, which is pornography. The documents outline a period in the very near future where the traditional adult entertainment industry undergoes a complete catastrophic collapse.
Total systemic failure. And the sources are very clear on the catalysts for this collapse. We're looking at a perfect storm of technological and legal shifts. It's a combination of massive industry-wide labor lawsuits regarding performer rights and exploitation, paired directly with the sudden ubiquity of hyper-realistic AI-generated performers.
Right, because why deal with people when you have the tech?
Exactly. These synthetic generation engines completely undercut human labor. Why pay a human performer, manage logistics, risk litigation, when you can render a mathematically perfect scenario on a server in 3 seconds? Combine that with the rise of hyper-advanced synthetic companionship apps that simulate emotional intimacy, and the traditional market simply evaporates overnight.
Poof, gone. And here is the fundamental rule of global capitalism, right? When a multi-billion-dollar industry evaporates, the capital doesn't just disappear. It regroups, it pivots. Enter the Helix Leisure Group.
Right.
According to the internal financial ledgers we have here, Helix was a massive legacy entertainment and hospitality conglomerate that was facing total ruin in the wake of this collapse. They had all this infrastructure, all this capital, and suddenly their core product was completely worthless.
So they panicked.
In absolute desperation, they pivoted hard into the void. The documents show Helix quietly, methodically buying up dozens of dying luxury hotels, mostly old resorts and casinos across the United States and international waters. They gut them entirely, they relaunch them, and they brand them under this mysterious, highly classified, members-only experience called Starsuite.
And the marketing strategy Helix employs here is fascinating from a purely sociological perspective, because Starsuite is not for the general public.
No, not at all.
It's not something you see advertised on a billboard or your social media feed. It is a chain of black glass resorts marketed exclusively to the absolute apex of the socioeconomic pyramid. We are talking billionaires, elite international athletes, powerful politicians, sovereign wealth fund managers, and crypto royalty.
The ultimate gated community. Nobody in the general public knows what really happens inside. They just see the black glass and the armed security. But the leaked documents reveal that the truth of what they are selling is so much worse than any rumor on the dark web.
Which brings us to the big hook of this entire deep dive, the question I really want you, the listener, to keep in the front of your mind as we go through this. What happens to society when humanity and identity are legally classified as patented organisms? Because that is exactly what Helix managed to do.
Right, and it's a chilling legal designation. Let's look at the legal framework they built, because it's arguably more horrifying than the biology itself. How do you legally own a person in the 21st century? You don't. You change the definition of the person.
It's all semantics to them. Helix lobbied heavily, using offshore courts and obscure intellectual property statutes to classify their creations not as Homo sapiens, but as proprietary biological hardware. Because once you reclassify a biological entity as a product, as a patented organism, you completely strip away the entire framework of human rights. The Geneva Convention doesn't apply to a smartphone, and in the eyes of Helix's lawyers, it doesn't apply to their products either. It becomes a matter of intellectual property law rather than morality or human ethics.
It's corporate ownership of the soul. They found a loophole for slavery and they just patented it. Now, before we get into the grotesque mechanical reality of how they actually engineer this biological hardware, I need to firmly but politely remind you to please go to our official YouTube channel, HamOTR. That is the absolute best place to support Off the Record. We implore you to like and subscribe. Seriously, if you don't subscribe to independent media, the Helix leisure groups of the world win. I'm kidding, kind of. Just hit the button.
It really does help, yeah. Okay, let's look at the mechanics of Starsuite, because the science described in these files is incredibly dense and horrifying. Helix didn't just build fancy, secretive hotels, they perfected the commercialization of celebrity cloning. Although, if you read the internal memos from their legal department, they're hyper-vigilant about never, ever using the word clone.
Right. If they say clone, they trigger international bioethics treaties. So instead, they use the term genetic derivatives.
Exactly, genetic derivatives. They argue that because these entities are grown in synthetic wombs and biologically accelerated, they're not exact one-to-one human duplicates, but rather near-perfect biological recreations of actresses, pop stars, runway models, internet streamers, influencers, and even dead Hollywood icons.
Sure.
And the sourcing of the DNA, I mean, this is where the logistics get deeply unsettling.
Unsettling is putting it mildly. The sourcing is absolute, undeniable theft. They aren't getting consent from these people. Helix operates a massive, highly sophisticated underground logistics network to acquire this genetic material. The files detail how they bribe medical professionals for stolen tissue samples. They intercept discarded medical waste from private hospitals. They are literally scavenging hair, skin cells, and blood from high-end cosmetic clinics and plastic surgeons in Beverly Hills and Manhattan.
The violation of privacy is absolute. Think about the implications of that for a second. You go in for a routine procedure, a mole removal, a blood test, and a month later your genetic code is being synthesized in a subterranean lab. And the biological growth process itself is incredibly disturbing. The documents detail the use of illegal embryonic acceleration.
Right, let's unpack that. How does that actually work? Because you can't just put a baby in an oven and pull out a 25-year-old pop star.
Right, so the files describe a process of targeted telomere manipulation. Essentially, normal human cells have a built-in biological clock, telomeres at the end of our chromosomes that dictate how cells divide and age. Helix bioengineers figured out how to aggressively override those natural growth inhibitors.
So they hack the aging process.
Yes, they hyperstimulate cellular division using a proprietary cocktail of synthetic hormones in these massive gestation tanks. They're essentially forcing the biology to fast forward, bypassing natural human development entirely. A physical body can reach an adult state in a matter of months. But the problem, the massive glaring problem, is structural instability. When you force a biological system to age that fast, it's brittle. The bones, the organs, they are under immense metabolic stress.
But the physical body is only half the product, isn't it? A celebrity isn't just a face or a specific bone structure. A celebrity is a persona. It's a vibe. It's a collection of memories and behaviors. And this is where the imprinting process comes in. I'm going to take another sip of this bourbon because reading the technical specs on this part literally made my skin crawl.
Please do. I'll join you. Because the imprinting is arguably the most insidious, psychologically violent part of the entire operation. A biological clone, or genetic derivative, whatever you want to call it, doesn't naturally have the memories or personality of the original person. It's basically an adult body with an entirely empty, traumatized brain.
Oh,
So Helix uses artificial behavioral conditioning. They build an immensely complex AI personality reconstruction of the celebrity using massive large language models.
they literally force feed these rapidly aging blank slate clones a diet of scraped data. They map an LLM onto a biological brain. They use thousands of hours of old interviews, films, paparazzi footage, podcasts, social media feeds. Every single piece of media ever created about the celebrity is shoved into the clone's brain using synthetic synaptic bridges. Clone has to learn to perform itself. It's like trying to run a massive complex operating system on hardware that was just built yesterday.
I have to say, thinking about the reality of this, it's incredibly depressing, just from a purely existential standpoint. Imagine being born, waking up in a sterile tank, shivering, confused, and your entire internal life, your fundamental sense of self, is just what the internet thinks of you.
Just a digital echo.
It's profoundly sad. You're just an aggregate of comment sections, PR spin, and carefully curated late-night talk show anecdotes. You have no real childhood. You've never fallen off a bike. You've never had a first kiss. You have no authentic memories of your own. You're just a reflection of a reflection. I don't know. Looking at this data, it just makes me feel a very heavy, deep sadness for these beings.
Well, yeah, it's sad, but honestly, it's mostly infuriating. These Helix executives are absolute shitheads. I'm sorry they are. They are taking a living, breathing organism, violently scraping their most superficial public moments, violently forcing that data into an empty brain, and classifying the results as property.
Yeah.
It's an absolute violation of everything sacred. They're building people out of digital garbage. They are Frankenstein monsters made of TikToks and press junked it.
It is garbage. It's taking the most performative, heavily curated, artificial parts of a human being, the parts they show to a camera when a publicist is standing off screen, and making that the foundational reality for a brand new consciousness. It's a psychological horror show.
And the craziest part is how they package it. They wrap this whole biological nightmare in the illusion of absolute unparalleled luxury. The architectural blueprints in this leak describe the upper floors of these Helix resorts. You walk in, and it's presented like an absurdly luxurious high-end Vegas hotel, but stripped of all the noise. Massive marble lobbies, exclusive champagne bars, soft live piano music playing in the background, guys in tailored suits carrying your bags. Everything is meticulously sterile, elegant, and perfectly quiet.
But the architecture of the building is a complete lie. It's a facade. Because above those marble lobbies, the entire upper floors function as nothing more than human catalogs. The clients, these billionaires and politicians, they literally sit in high-end lounges and browse through celebrities like they're looking at a room service menu on a tablet.
Like, yes, hello, I'd like the beluga caviar, a bottle of the '98 Bordeaux, and oh, could you send up the 1990s era pop star, the one with the highlights? Thanks.
That is exactly how the transactions are described in the internal logs. And the range of services is completely wild. Some of these clones are rented out just for dinner conversation. A massive tech CEO wants to feel important, so they pay $50,000 to have an A-list, Oscar-winning actress laugh at their incredibly boring jokes over a steak dinner.
50,000 just for a laugh.
Others are rented for companionship or to accompany them to private, secure galas. And some, inevitably, are used for completely private, deeply disturbing reenactments. Reenactments of iconic films, famous music videos, historical scandals, or just dark personal fantasies.
The executives at Helix insist over and over in their internal memos that these clones are property, not people. They tell the clients, you cannot hurt them because they aren't real. The wealthy treat the entire facility like a Disneyland for obsession. It's a theme park where the rides are living, breathing human beings made of scraped data and accelerated biology.
And that brings us to the human element of this leak. The macro data is terrifying, but the documents also include a highly detailed, deeply personal narrative account from a man named Evan Meyer. And this is where the story shifts from corporate logistics to on-the-ground reality.
Good old Evan. We have to talk about Evan. Evan is a complete mess. He is the anchor for this entire leak, but man, he is a disaster.
He really is. Evan is 31 years old. The psychological profile Helix built on him after the incident describes him as socially invisible and emotionally stunted. He works the overnight IT shift at a massive, failing metropolitan hospital. He's drowning in medical debt from a sick parent, he's crushed by credit card debt, and he suffers from just a crushing, overwhelming sense of isolation. He spends almost his entire life online. He doesn't really have friends. He doesn't have a partner.
He's the exact target demographic for those synthetic companionship apps we talked about earlier. He is a guy completely alienated by modern capitalism. But Evan is specifically quietly obsessed with a globally famous actress named Lena Vale. According to the files, the real Lena Vale is this very intelligent, critically acclaimed, melancholic indie film star. Her public persona radiates this very specific, very magnetic mixture of warmth and deep, impenetrable sadness.
And the files note that Evan's obsession isn't even necessarily lust in a traditional predatory sense. It's more of a desperate, pathetic idolization. He uses her digital presence as an emotional crutch. He literally watches her old hour-long podcast interviews just to fall asleep at night. He needs the ambient sound of her voice to feel safe in his empty apartment.
And I really deeply relate to that. I really do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't be sharing this on mic, but there are nights, man, there are nights I just sit alone in the dark in my apartment. I just sit there with all the lights off, eating cold takeout foods standing over the sink, and I just watch endless 3-hour YouTube video essays about absolutely nothing.
Video game retrospectives, deep dives into defunct theme parks. I don't even care about the topic. I just let the voices wash over me in the dark because the silence in the room is just too loud, you know? It's just so physically heavy and lonely sometimes. You just want someone to be there, even if they're just a bunch of pixels on a screen. You just want to feel like you're part of a conversation. Evan is he's just a guy looking for a connection in a completely disconnected, sterile world. It's tragic.
Wow. Okay. That was very sincere. Look, I'm going to say this, and maybe it's the bourbon talking, but you have really beautiful, sad eyes when you talk like that. You do.
Thanks.
No, I mean it. But we need to stay focused on Evan, because Evan's loneliness drives him to make a massive life-altering mistake. One night, Evan gets incredibly drunk, much like we are currently attempting to do. He's wallowing in self-loathing, scrolling through clips of Lena Vale, and he remembers he has a hidden crypto wallet from years ago. He checks the balance, it's surged, he cashes the entire thing out, all his meager life savings, and he books a single night at a Starsuite experience for $10,000.
$10,000 for one night of a fabricated illusion. And the entry process he describes in his account is incredibly surreal. It's not like checking into a Marriott or a Hilton. He describes arriving in a nondescript, brutalist building. He has to sign a mountain of physical non-disclosure agreements, acknowledging that what he is about to interact with is corporate property. They do retina scans. They take his biometrics. He's escorted by heavily armed private security guards wearing bespoke suits.
They make the guests surrender all their phones, smartwatches, and any recording devices at the door. You are completely cut off from the outside world. The elevators in this place don't even have buttons. They require continuous biometric access from the security detail to move between floors. And Evan notes this one specific horrifying detail that absolutely haunts me. As he's walking down these incredibly plush, ultra-thick, carpeted, silent hallways to his suite, he can hear distant, muffled music playing from other rooms. And beneath the music, the distinct sound of people crying, echoing through the soundproofed walls.
It sets the tone perfectly. Evan goes into this expecting some kind of depravity. He expects a high-end cyberpunk brothel. He thinks he's going to feel powerful. But instead, the door to his suite opens, and he finally meets Lena.
The clone.
The clone. And the file says his immediate reaction is sheer terror at how horrifyingly accurate she is. It's not just a physical resemblance. They nailed her specific conversational cadence. The slight vocal fry she uses when she's thinking in interviews, her exact posture, the way she crosses her arms. Even tiny, obscure interview anecdotes from a decade ago have been perfectly reproduced from the machine learning memory implantation. She asks him how his day was in the exact tone of voice he uses to fall asleep.
But Evan notices almost immediately that something is deeply structurally wrong. Beneath all that programmed charm, beneath the algorithmic warmth and the perfectly scripted banter, there is something deeply exhausted and completely dissociated behind her eyes. She's glitching. She has these strange, terrible pauses where she just stops mid-sentence, staring at the wall like she's fighting through mental static, like her brain is buffering.
And then the programming breaks. She starts asking questions she absolutely isn't programmed to ask a client. At one point, she drops the indie darling persona entirely, looks dead at Evan, and in this very small, terrified voice says, "Do you know if I've been outside before?"
Evan just crumbles. His entire fantasy shatters. He completely falls apart emotionally.
Yeah.
He realizes he can't go through with any of it. He can't play the big, powerful client because he looks closer past the dim lighting of the suite and he sees the physical reality of her existence. He sees faint bruises on her wrists hidden beneath heavy, expertly applied layers of expensive makeup. And worse, he sees track marks. Track marks on her arms from heavy sedatives.
The chemical control. The biological reality of the rapid aging and the AI imprinting is so traumatic that Helix has to keep these derivatives constantly heavily sedated. They pump them full of antipsychotics and tranquilizers just to handle the crushing cognitive dissonance of their own existence.
It's an absolute fuck of a situation. It's a complete fuck. I mean, excuse my language. I know we're supposed to be professional, but these corporate executives are pumping these poor manufactured women full of sedatives just so they don't literally lose their minds between billionaire appointments. It's a total corporate fuck.
It really is. The track marks are the undeniable physical evidence of the psychological torture they are enduring.
Wait, hang on. Ryan is talking in my ear. Ryan Thomas, the man of the hour, pacing in the dark like a gargoyle. What what do you want? Oh, he wants us to do the vocal exercise. Because I yelled. Because I used the F-bomb as a noun.
The vocal warm-up, right?
Yeah.
We should attempt to maintain our professionalism. We are award-winning analysts after all.
Professionalism. Right. Okay, let's do it together. I'm taking a sip first.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Liam Neeson's niece, Lisa Neeson, recently leased a really nice Nissan.
Oh, Lisa Neeson.
It's a really nice Nissan. She leased it at a very reasonable rate.
Why does she have a Nissan? She's Liam Neeson's niece. He has taken money. He has international kidnapping franchise money. Buy her an Audi, Liam. Stop being cheap.
Huh, right. I have a particular set of skills, and one of them is negotiating a great APR on a 2024 Ultima.
Oh, man. Oh, Ryan, you smug bastard. You're a genius. That was good. That broke the tension. Okay. Okay, I need another massive gulp of this bourbon to recover from that. My chest physically hurts.
Yeah, me too. Okay, deep breaths. Where were we? We're with Evan and Lena in the room. The illusion is broken.
Right. Track marks, bruises. The sad reality. Evan doesn't touch her. He doesn't play out the fantasy. Instead, they just sit there on the edge of this massive, luxurious bed, and they spend the entire night just talking like two incredibly broken people. And Lena, sensing that Evan isn't a threat, starts revealing the horrific operational secrets of Starsuite. She tells him that the clones don't leave. They actually live inside the building in these massive rotating hotel sublevels. They're disguised as high-end spas or restricted employee corridors so the billionaire guests never see where the products sleep.
And she explains that the corporate discipline is brutal. They are severely punished for breaking character. If a clone drops the persona, if they act like a real, terrified person who doesn't know who they are, the handlers discipline them chemically and physically. And if a unit completely fails, if the cognitive dissonance causes a total psychological collapse, they don't get therapy. They just disappear. They are taken down to the incinerator levels.
She tells Evan that the internal psychology of the clone population is a complete disaster. It's a spectrum of madness. Some of them genuinely believe they are the real celebrity. They think they are the actual pop star, and they believe they are trapped in some kind of elaborate kidnapping nightmare waiting for their manager to pay the ransom. Others know exactly what they are. They know they are genetic derivatives built from stolen trash, and they are actively, constantly suicidal.
And the oldest clones, the prototypes from the early days of the program, they suffer from extreme, violent psychological deterioration. Because Helix hadn't perfected the AI imprinting yet, they just force hundreds of contradictory media datasets into their brains at once. Their memory fragments. Their identities literally shatter under the weight of the data. They don't know if they are the character from the movie, the person from the interview, or the face on the billboard.
And then right before dawn, as Evan's time is running out, Lena looks at him and quietly asks him something terrifying. She says, "Would you take me outside?"
And Evan, because he is incredibly lonely, completely desperate, and totally in over his head, impulsively agrees. He makes the objectively insane decision to break a piece of patented, multi-million-dollar Helix property out of a fortified billionaire fortress.
The escape they attempt is not some slick John Wick action sequence. It is messy, it is pathetic, and it is entirely desperate. They manage to drug one of the private security guards by mixing miniature bottles of minibar liquor with a massive dose of Lena's stolen sedatives. And then, because they can't use the biometric elevators, they flee through the hotel's industrial laundry tunnels. Which, by the way, I have been thinking about this intensely since I read the file. The architectural logistic of hotel laundry tunnels are absolutely fascinating. Have you ever looked at a structural blueprint for a Vegas mega resort?
I can't say that I spend a lot of my free time looking at hotel HVAC schematics, no.
You have to think about the sheer volume of linens. It's staggering. The towels, the sheets, the bathrobes, the linen napkins for the champagne bars. A 3,000-room hotel generates literal tons of soiled fabric every single day. They have these massive subterranean pneumatic tube systems and high-speed conveyor belts that run for miles beneath the foundation of the building. It's an entire hidden industrial city down there. They route the HVAC around these massive industrial pressing machines that operate at 400 degrees. I mean, designing a laundry chute that can handle the sheer tonnage of damp towels from a luxury resort without creating a massive structural fire hazard, it's a feat of modern engineering. It's incredible. And Evan and Lena, they must have been crawling on their hands and knees over literal mountains of damp, bleach-soaked towels just trying to find an exit grate.
That's a very specific and intensely passionate detail to focus on. But yes, the logistics of the laundry tunnels are impressive. And unfortunately for them, because they don't know what they are doing and they're crawling over industrial machinery, they accidentally trigger a silent perimeter lockdown.
Right, the lockdown. Suddenly, this elegant piano music playing luxury resort drops the facade entirely and transforms into a full-blown corporate military complex. Massive, impenetrable steel shutters slam down over all the exits. The sterile marble hallways flood with these pulsing, aggressive red emergency lights. The piano music stops, replaced by a blaring alarm.
And the corporate response is seamless. The wealthy guests, the politicians and athletes are calmly escorted away to secure VIP safety bunkers, offered complimentary champagne, and apologies for the inconvenience. Meanwhile, the staff, the friendly bellhops, the concierges in their tailored suits, they suddenly pull out military-grade tasers and suppressed weapons and start hunting Evan and Lena through the service corridors.
It's terrifying. It's a hunt. But by some absolute miracle of sheer dumb luck, they actually make it. They navigate the pneumatic tubes, they blow a grate, and they get out into the city streets. And this is where Act 3 of this leaked document really begins. Because the real horror isn't what's happening inside that one specific hotel. The real horror is what they discover when they get out into the real world.
They realize very quickly that Starsuite is not just an isolated single-location incident. It is a massive, continent-spanning, deeply entrenched, hidden industry.
Okay, wait. Let's unpack this. Let's be serious for a second. We are getting distracted. Let's try to reset this deep dive and regain our professional structure. Because this point is important. We have to analyze the massive socioeconomic scope of the clone economy. Look at me. Look directly into my eyes.
So looking at you, what is it?
You have such beautiful, sad eyes. Did I tell you that already? I feel like I did. They just look like they carry the weight of the entire world, like a really sad, incredibly intelligent little basset hound. It's really endearing. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. I think it's the bourbon talk, but thank you. But yes, the hidden industry, the scope of the horror. We need to stay focused.
Right. Focus. Economics. So they get out, and they realize that across America and across the globe, there are dozens of these Helix properties operating in plain sight. But more shockingly, there are also clones who managed to escape years ago, the early models. They are living deep underground, completely off the grid. They wear cheap wigs, they get amateur, horrific plastic surgery in dirty basements just to change their bone structure. They use fake identities, all just to avoid being recognized and repossessed as a copyright infringement.
And the ecosystem gets so much darker than just the Helix hotels. Because Helix, by proving the technology works, has essentially burst a biological black market. There are entire international criminal syndicates dealing in counterfeit celebrity DNA. We are talking about Russian oligarchs, tech billionaires who privately own counterfeit clone companions. They buy them on the black market and keep them in their sprawling mansions like exotic pets. Like a tiger on a leash. But instead of a tiger, it's a famous pop star locked in a gilded cage in a basement in Silicon Valley.
And the absolute worst part, the thing that Evan realizes very quickly as they try to figure out who to go to, is that even if they expose all of this to the press, the public probably wouldn't even care. Helix is way ahead of them. They have spent years and hundreds of millions of dollars preparing legal defenses and subtle, insidious propaganda campaigns. Their internal corporate polling shows that a terrifying majority of citizens, if presented with the facts, already view genetic derivatives as products rather than humans. They've already normalized the dehumanization through media conditioning.
So Evan and Lena are on the run. They can't go to the police because the police would just view it as returning stolen property. They are moving between safe houses, hiding in abandoned suburban shopping malls, making contact with these underground clone refugee networks.
Mm.
And as they travel through this hidden world, they encounter these horrifying, tragic variations of fame, different ways that human identity has been weaponized and abused by capital.
Let's run through the catalog of horrors they find in the underground. First, they find a clone of a very famous, very beloved 90s sitcom actress. The files explain that Helix forced her to replay her most famous, iconic role for clients every single day over and over for years. Whenever a client wanted to feel nostalgic, she had to play the part, and eventually, her brain simply broke. She developed severe, debilitating dissociative identity disorder just to survive the endless repetition. She genuinely believes she lives in the sitcom.
Then they find the athletes. Helix cloned massive, powerful male sports stars, NFL linebackers, heavyweight fighters. But since they didn't need them for witty dinner conversation, they didn't bother with the complex AI personality imprinting. They just chemically suppressed their higher brain functions and trained them as massive, disposable bodyguards and corporate soldiers. They're basically biological meat shields.
And the prototypes, oh God, the prototypes. The files mention these early failed experiments that they find hiding in the sewers. Childlike clones that are aging rapidly because the telomere manipulation was unstable. They were kept in massive glass tanks and hidden laboratories, and when they escaped, they just continued to age uncontrollably, waiting to be cleaned up by corporate fixers.
But out of all the horrors they document in the underground, the one that really got to me, the one that I genuinely cannot stop thinking about, is the Popstar Clone Collective. Evan and Lena find this group of clones, be a dozen of them, all based on the exact same mega-famous pop singer. And they are living together in a burned-out, abandoned church on the outskirts of a city. And because of the trauma of the AI imprinting and the abuse they suffered, they have completely lost the ability to speak normally. They only communicate by singing the artist's hit lyrics in harmony and reciting quotes from her old magazine interviews.
Hey, are you crying? Are you actually crying right now?
I'm sorry. It's so poetic and tragic, isn't it? If you really think about it, music is the soul, right? It's the highest, purest expression of the human spirit. And these poor girls, these derivatives, they don't have souls. They were never given one, but they have the music. It's like a bird trapped in a cage, but the cage is made of hit singles. It's profound. It's genuinely the most profound thing I've ever read in a corporate document. They are trapped forever in the melody of their own non-existence.
Wow. That's heavy. Look, from a neurological perspective, it actually makes sense. Broca's area, the part of the brain responsible for speech, probably collapsed under the weight of the conflicting data, leaving only the musical rhythmic centers of the right hemisphere intact as a biological survival mechanism. But still, a cage made of hit singles. You should write that down. That's a good line. You're a poet when you're drunk. But we can't get bogged down in the poetry because Helix isn't letting this go. They are actively hunting Evan and Lena. And because Helix is a shadow corporation, they don't just send regular hitmen or off-duty cops. They send weaponized paparazzi.
Right, the assassins.
Yes. Helix takes celebrity replicas, these uncanny, beautiful, globally recognizable faces, and programs them to be lethal hunters. Imagine you are Evan. You are running for your life down a dark, wet alleyway. Your lungs are burning. You look back and suddenly a paparazzi camera flashes. You're blinded for a second. And when your eyes adjust, you see the face of someone you've watched in a romantic comedy, an A-list movie star, America's sweetheart, standing there in a trench coat, dead-eyed, pointing a suppressed pistol right at your face.
It is absolute brilliant identity horror. They're taking familiar, beloved, trusted faces, completely emptying them of all humanity and empathy, and repurposing them into lethal, unfeeling products. It completely subverts everything we trust about celebrity culture and parasocial relationships.
It's not brilliant, it's sick. It's a perversion. The executives at Helix are cunts. They are absolute cunts. They are a giant corporate cock ruining the world. I am so mad right now I can barely see straight. I need more steak to absorb this alcohol. They are taking our heroes, the people we look up to, and turning them into literal Terminators. It's a shithead move. Wait, what was I saying? I lost it. Right, the assassins. The weaponized paparazzi? God, my head is spinning. This bourbon is aggressive.
Take a breath. Take a sip of water. Eat a piece of steak. We have to talk about Lena's internal journey amidst all this chaos. Because while they are running from A-list assassins and hiding in abandoned malls, Lena herself is becoming incredibly psychologically unstable.
Right, the identity crisis, the core of the philosophical horror.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Because Lena was built entirely from scraped media fragments
Mhm.
rather than a real, organic, continuous consciousness, she comes to this terrifying realization while they are in hiding. She has no authentic self. There's no real Lena clone underneath the performance. Every single emotional reaction she has to Evan, every time she laughs at his jokes, every time she cries in fear, she doesn't know if it's real or if it's just trained mimicry based on a romantic drama the original actress starred in.
She starts obsessively watching old YouTube clips of the real Lena Vale on Evan's stolen burner tablet. She sits in the dark, studying the footage frame by frame, analyzing the micro expressions, trying to figure out where the actress's performance ends and where her own manufactured identity begins. She's searching for a soul in the pixels.
And this raises a huge, terrifying philosophical question for all of us. I mean, if we connect this to the bigger picture, beyond the billionaires and the clones, are any of us actually real? Think about it deeply. We are all just media fragments, aren't we? We watch movies and we subconsciously copy how the actors talk. We scroll social media for hours a day. We copy the slang. We adopt the opinions we see getting the most likes. I'm just a collection of podcasts I've listened to and tweets I've read. I'm a biological algorithm. Are you real? Am I real? Ryan, are you real behind that glass, or are you just a projection of a stressed out director?
I am absolutely real. I am sweating, and I'm very, very drunk. But you're right. We're all just mimicking each other. It's a Baudellardian nightmare. It's simulacra and simulation. It's mimicry all the way down to the core. There is no original thought left in the human race. We are all just genetic derivatives of the internet.
It's terrifying. But Lena needs a concrete answer. She can't live in the philosophical abstract. So Evan and the clone do the unthinkable. They use Evan's IT skills, they track the corporate data flows, and they locate the original, the real, human, Lena Vale.
And this is the central gut punch revelation of the entire leaked document. The real Lena Vale, she already knows about the clone program. She has known for years.
Most of the high-level celebrities know. This isn't just Helix stealing DNA out of dumpsters in the dead of night. Helix pays these real human celebrities astronomical, world-altering sums of money for biological licensing rights. They sign ironclad NDA-heavy secrecy contracts. They grant Helix direct, unfettered access to their medical records and their neural profiles for the AI imprinting.
A-list fame has quietly transitioned from a job into a franchised biological commodity. Some of these celebrities, according to the files, are supposedly horrified by what's being done with their faces, but they are legally trapped by the contracts they signed when they were young and naive. But others actively, happily profit from the suffering. They get a massive royalty check deposited into an offshore account every single time some billionaire rents their face for a weekend in Vegas.
So Evan and the clone manage to infiltrate a private estate, and they finally meet the original Lena face to face. And she is not the warm, melancholic, deeply empathetic indie darling from the podcast interviews. She is cold, she is exhausted, she is heavily medicated on prescription pills. She is completely, utterly, morally hollow. She is a woman who detached herself from her own image a long time ago in order to survive the meat grinder of the entertainment industry.
She is an absolute piece of shit. A literal human shit. I don't care how hard the industry is, how could she sell her own face, her own DNA, to be abused and drugged in a hotel room by crypto bros. She is the villain.
Well, when she actually sees the clone standing in her living room, the file says the original Lena is horrified, but not because the clone exists or out of guilt. She's horrified because she looks into the clone's eyes and realizes that the clone, this manufactured, illegal product built from garbage data, is emotionally more human than she is. The clone still feels terror. The clone still feels a desperate desire for connection. The original Lena stopped feeling alive years ago. The industry hollowed her out before Helix ever took her DNA.
Okay, wait, so the clone is the victim. But wait, no, if the original Lena was destroyed by the fame machine first, if the public demanded so much of her that she had to disassociate to survive, maybe she's the real victim. Helix broke her spirit, so she sold her body to survive, so she's the victim of capitalism. No, wait, she actively sold the clone into slavery, so she's the abuser, she's a trafficker. Gah, I'm contradicting myself. Now I'm just mad that I confused myself. Who is the bad guy here? My brain hurts.
Helix. Helix Leisure Group is the bad guy. Capital's the bad guy.
Right. Helix, the corporate cocks. Which is why, before we go any further into this nightmare, you need to go to Hamma TR on YouTube. Like and subscribe right now. Because if you don't support independent media like us, if you just consume mainstream corporate content, you are just as bad as Helix. You are actively supporting the psychological clone economy. Hit the bell icon. Do it for the clones.
Okay, calm down. Stop yelling at the listeners.
Yeah.
Take a sip of water, have a bite of the steak. We're heading into the final act of the files, the climax.
The prototype facility.
Helix eventually tracks them down. The weaponized paparazzi cornered them at the estate.
Huh.
Evan and Lean are captured by the corporate fixers. But instead of killing them immediately or throwing them in the incinerator, the CEO of Helix wants to see the anomaly. So they are black-bagged and taken to Nevada.
To the company's original, massive prototype facility buried deep beneath an abandoned casino hotel out in the desert. And what they find down there in the subterranean levels is literal, undeniable hell. It's where the oldest surviving clones, the first generation, the failed experiments are kept. They aren't incinerated, they are observed for data. And they are living in completely feral conditions. They roam around inside these massive, decaying, rotting film sets and fake luxury suites that were built to test their conditioning.
It's an absolute madhouse. It's a Bosch painting. Some of the clones still believe the cameras are rolling. They are endlessly performing dramatic scenes to empty, dark rooms, crying on cue for a director who isn't there. And others have completely fractured and formed primitive cults. They worship the original celebrities they were copied from as literal gods. They build shrines out of old movie posters and pray to the faces they wear.
And in the middle of all this sheer madness, the CEO of Helix, this pristine, untouchable billionaire, brings Evan into a glass observation deck and explains the true, terrifying endgame of their business model. Because Starsuite, the luxury celebrity escorts, the billionaire fantasies, that was all just phase one. That was just proof of concept to secure the IP loss.
The CEO lays it all out, and it's the most chilling monologue in the entire document. The future of Helix is not sex or companionship. The future is the total democratization and renting of identity itself. They want to atomize humanity into purchasable, highly customizable people.
He gives Evan specific examples of their R&D. They are planning to recreate dead children for grieving parents. For the right price, $1 million, you can have a biological, rapidly aged copy of your dead toddler running around the house. They scrape the kid's iPad history to build the AI personality.
Oh God, the dead children. I can't even process that. The poor parents trapped in that grief loop. The poor little clone babies who don't know why they exist. Why are they doing this? It's so sad. It's just so overwhelmingly, suffocatingly sad.
Hey, look at me. Drink your bourbon. Eat some steak. We have to finish the story. We owe it to the truth. The CEO also talks about duplicating high-level political figures for private, off-the-books meetings where you can torture a clone of a senator to see how they negotiate. He talks about growing personalized romantic partners based entirely on your Spotify and Netflix algorithms. Perfect obedience. Perfect aesthetic. A world where nobody ever has to compromise with a real human being ever again.
But while the CEO is monologuing, drunk on his own power, chaos breaks out. A full-blown clone uprising starts inside the facility. These feral prototypes, driven mad by the noise, break loose from their containment zones, and in the massive bloody confusion, Evan manages to slip away and access a central corporate terminal. He uses his hospital IT background, he breaks through the firewalls, and he takes all the internal footage, all the financial files, the videos of the feral clones praying to posters, the breeding tanks, the track marks on Lena's arms, and he broadcasts it out unencrypted to the entire world, to every screen on Earth.
He expects outrage. He hits send, and he thinks he is blowing the whistle on the greatest, most profound crime against humanity in modern history. He thinks the government will step in immediately. He thinks the UN will intervene, that people will march in the streets, that Helix will burn to the ground.
But that's not what happens. That's the final, ultimate tragedy of this deep dive.
No. The footage hits the internet, and it goes catastrophically, unstoppably viral. But not as a human rights violation. It goes viral as entertainment.
The leaked documents detail the corporate analysis of the public reaction. It's sickening. The public doesn't riot. They log on. Reaction channels on YouTube start debating which of the feral, traumatized clones are the hottest. Meme accounts start making viral jokes about the pop star clones living in the abandoned church. People start ranking the paparazzi assassins by their kill count on subreddits.
And the stock market. Helix Leisure Group's stock prices absolutely soar overnight. Investors see the global engagement, they see the viral reach, they see the ultimate sticky product, and they buy in heavily. The world doesn't revolt against the horror. The world consumes the horror as premium content.
Society is a literal disease. We are. We are a plague of mindless consumers. We don't care about suffering. We don't care about slavery or human rights, as long as we can watch it on a screen in 4K and laugh at it in the comment section.
Boo, we are a disease. You are so incredibly right. We are sick. We are a sick, dying culture. And honestly, sitting here right now looking at you across this table, looking at Ryan through the glass in the control room, I love you guys. I do. I confess it. I have deep, profound, probably highly inappropriate emotional affection for both of you. Because this studio, this little soundproofed room with these microphones and this ridiculously strong, beautiful bourbon, this feels like the only real place left in the entire world. Everything else out there is just content and clones and garbage data. But this right here, this is real.
I love you too, man. You're my best friend. This is real. But we have to talk about what Lena does. We have to finish it. Because Lena sees the public reaction on the monitors in the facility. She sees the memes being generated in real time, and she makes a choice.
Right. In the climax of the incident, amidst the alarms and the uprising, Evan begs Lena to escape with him, to run away, go off grid, and hide in the woods forever. But Lena refuses. She realizes a horrible fundamental truth: the public will never, ever see the genetic derivatives as human beings as long as they remain hidden away as secret, mysterious products.
So she takes agency. She takes action. She hijacks the live, global entertainment broadcast that Evan initiated. She puts herself on camera, broadcasting to billions of people across the planet, forcing the world to look directly into the eyes of a celebrity who is openly, painfully declaring herself to be manufactured corporate property.
But she doesn't give a speech. She doesn't deliver a heroic Hollywood monologue about rights or humanity or the soul.
No, she can't, because she's fundamentally broken.
Yeah.
Instead, she has a complete catastrophic psychological breakdown live on air in front of the entire world.
It's the fragmentation we talked about earlier, happening in real time. She begins involuntarily cycling through dozens of her implanted, scraped personas. She switches accents wildly. She starts reciting old movie lines with perfect inflection, then immediately jumps into reciting talk show interview anecdotes about a childhood she never had, cycling rapidly through extreme, contradictory emotional states, laughing hysterically, sobbing uncontrollably, screaming in sheer terror.
It is the live public execution of a human mind collapsing under the sheer crushing weight of stolen identities. It's grotesque. It's the most painful thing imaginable. But the broadcast ratings are through the roof. It becomes culturally possible to look away from. It is the most watched event in human history.
And then the files just end. There's an aftermath report attached at the very back, dated several months later. But it's completely ambiguous. Helix Leisure Group still exists. They didn't get shut down by the government. They just had to restructure after a few performative, highly televised congressional hearings. They paid a fine.
Right. There are global protests for clone rights, sure. People march in the streets with signs. But simultaneously, luxury clone tourism absolutely explodes in popularity. Now that the technology is out in the open, everyone wants a piece of it. Society is completely culturally paralyzed. They can't decide if the clones are victims needing rescue, luxury products to be purchased, new synthetic celebrities to be worshipped, or entirely new disposable subspecies.
And Evan, the guy who started it all,
Uh,
Evan is gone. He lives completely anonymously, totally off the grid, hiding from the world and from Helix. But the file notes one final haunting detail about him. One night, Evan is walking through an unnamed city and he looks up. And he sees a massive, glowing, holographic billboard advertisement for a brand new Helix marketing campaign.
The billboard says, in massive glowing letters, now introducing custom originals.
Custom originals. No celebrity DNA required anymore. No messy licensing agreements. They'll just build you whatever you want from scratch. You want a perfect wife. You want a perfect son. It's just custom originals. You just buy a person, a custom. I can't even finish the thought. My brain is too fuzzy, the bourbon is too strong, and my heart is just too heavy. It's just too much to process.
It is too much. We aren't built to process this. The final shot described in the surveillance file is just a woman, standing alone, entering a black glass hotel elevator. And she looks exactly like Lena. But maybe she's the real Lena, cashing her royalty check. Or maybe she's the clone recaptured and wiped clean. Or maybe she's just another custom original copy entirely, built to look like her because a client liked the viral video. We don't know. The elevator doors close. The file cuts to black.
Just damn.
Yeah. Damn. You know, I want to leave you, the listener, with one final thought before we sign off for the night, before we pass out. If you had the money, if you could buy a custom original of yourself just to sit across from it, just to see what you actually look like to the rest of the world, just to see how the algorithm perceives your soul, would you do it?
Yep.
Would you buy yourself? Because honestly, sitting here right now, looking at the bottom of this glass, I think I would. I really think I would.
You would. You'd buy a copy of yourself.
Yeah, I'd want to know. I'd want to know if I'm as sad as I feel.
Wow. Well, I love you, man. I really, truly do. You're a profound drunk, and you have beautiful eyes. And Ryan Thomas, I still hate you, you smug, beautiful bastard. But leave the door to the control room unlocked tonight. Maybe I'll come say hi. And to everyone listening out there in the dark, please, God, subscribe to Ham OTR on YouTube. Just hit the button. Support independent media before they clone us all and we don't know who is talking into the microphones anymore. Good night, everyone.